Okay,
Yeah, we're in frame. I got it. Hey guys, beer bastards, we're drunk as fuck. I'm Justin.
I'm Jason.
And we're here to test a friggin' beer because, what else would we do, am I right?
But that's not the purpose of this channel.
Really? Really?
I've never partaked. But what style of beer are we trying tonight?
Or at least the third Central Waters beer featured on this channel is going to be Scotch Ale aged in bourbon barrels. I am excited. And we've got a Pro Beard glasses. He's got the better one. He's got a proper glass. All in all, what glass do you need to drink in beer? I don't know. One that can hold liquid.
That's very important.
Could you drink beer out of a sippy cup? Yes, you could, but it is highly more preferable to drink barrel-aged beer out of
I would agree that this would be a proper glass versus a sippy cup.
This is also acceptable. A standard pint glass is also acceptable, but hey, you know what? I'm not rich. We're just gonna drink it out of whatever glassware we got. That's about it.
Cheers.
Sue me! Haha.
Don't bring that up. They might. They just might.
No. That's not gonna hold up in court.
Oh dear Lord, we are both wasted right now.
Oh, yeah. We've been to, 3 breweries? Yes.
3 breweries with very alcoholic beers, not your typical buds.
No.
Did you get half?
About.
Okay.
Yeah, I got there's hardly anything left, but I think that's pretty good. Yeah.
I got a little bit more, but.
I'm the one who lives in Wisconsin. I can get some more of this if I want. You have to
True.
Get this only whenever you come in here. So
true, but at the same time, I did get you some good Michigan beer that should tide you over.
Yeah, and more on that later. But anywho, that was the sound.
Fury. But let's go on.
Go away.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had about a nice half finger head that kind of developed into a small rim. Mm-hmm. And Phoenix wants to be the center of attention. Hi, cat. You can't have beer. Maybe cookies, but definitely not beer.
No beer for you.
All right. So the head went down pretty fast. What do you think of the head?
I would say it's basically non-existent, but I am getting a good aroma.
Nice.
And I do get a little bit of a spiced.
Yeah.
Would you say boozy? I think it's actually cut a little bit, but I do tell it's there.
Yeah, mapley.
Yes.
Mapley. Boozy, mapley, spice. I think part of it might be cinnamon.
I would concur.
Yeah, that would be about standard for a bourbon.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Yeah, we told them what we got.
Yeah.
In case you can't remember, short attention spans. I can't be the only guilty one. What's your name?
Huh?
As I said, Central Waters, bourbon barrel aged Scotch Ale. Anywho.
Oh, we get to taste it. Even better.
That is cinnamony. Cinnamony.
I would agree. I know we...
Sweet vanilla.
Yeah, I would say... I know we've had a couple tonight, but... are you getting really any harsh, boozy taste to it? Or... I know it's there, but... It's not overpowering.
Yeah, and sometimes that's what pains you off of getting a barrel-aged beer.
Mm-hmm.
Is that heavy booziness. That can turn a lot of people off. You definitely smell it, but you don't taste it.
Not as much. I know our taste buds are probably a little bit impaired right now, but I would still think we would taste overpowering levels of alcohol, and I don't think this has that.
No.
Is there anything you would try to pair this with? Food-wise, I would think it would be kind of difficult because it is its own thing.
Yeah, I think this is one of those beers you'd have to like really sit down and just enjoy it as itself.
Would you consider this like more of a cigar beer? Like, do you have a good cigar, a good beer, and just enjoy the sense, or do you think it's its own thing?
Maybe. I mean, it really depends on what cigar, but I mean, you're guaranteed to have a pleasant experience just to like sit down with some good company and have this.
Cheers.
Just like with a good chat.
Mm-hmm.
I'm picking up like I'm getting the heavy like sweet toffee underneath.
I'm not getting the tough, but I'm getting a little bit of the sweetness. So
Yeah. It's like cinnamon and sweetness, but like I think there's the toffee from it just being like a Scotch ale, because if it's a wee heavy style, that to me tends that it's going to be have like a heavy toffee or caramel, which a wee heavy is a style of Scotch ale, so it can have that in there. So it wouldn't surprise me if it's got that.
okay.
I don't know if you taste that in there or not, but I feel like I got that underneath.
I do got flavor profiles, but I will say this is not my typical style of ale that I go for. So
Yeah.
I would compare it to a little bit more of a holiday, but
Dude, cat's going
and
berserk.
your cat is going a little bit berserk. But
Yeah, it happens from time to time. I can't control them.
I don't know. I say Santa is trying to.
Hey, you stop it.
Yeah. What can I say? I would say this is a little bit out of my wheelhouse, but it is tasty. Strong cinnamon. I would not say nutmeg, but there's something in there that's also giving me a little bit of a kick.
Maybe nutmeg.
What do you say, nutmeg?
Maybe nutmeg. I could see that. It's an earthy spice, kind of like cinnamon. It's kind of that family, so I could see it.
Well, I kind of go by when I drink this in a normal year. It is usually a holiday ale, which is with nutmeg and cinnamon. But so I get that flavor, but I think it might be lacking, or maybe less. But that could just be a false positive on my end.
It could just be me, but I feel like the more and more I try to nose this, I pick up vanilla.
Mm-hmm. I would agree there. Would you say banana flavor at all, or not? Not at all?
No banana.
Well, what would
There
give
shouldn't be banana
in typical hop brewing? What would give a vanilla flavor to it? Is there a hops there, or is it actually straight vanilla extract?
No, if you want to get a vanilla taste in beer, you have to do either one of two things. You have to use like vanilla or like vanilla extract, but the problem with that is you're gonna get a very like sugary, syrupy kind of beer. But if you want to get like an authentic vanilla flavor in there, you're gonna want to barrel age the beers, because that's because like a bourbon or like a whiskey sometimes will have, like, depending on how it's distilled, will have the characteristic of vanilla in there. So if you barrel age your beer in that, it'll pull out that vanilla. So the fact that this isn't super sweet and super syrupy tells me that it is properly barrel aged and not using like, they're not just adding vanilla extract or vanilla syrup or anything like that in there.
Mm-hmm.
But you were picking up. What was it you said you were thinking? Before the vanilla.
Before the nutmeg, or
the nutmeg, yeah. A little bit of earthly spice. I mean, maybe there could be a hint of it in that because, like cinnamon, like nutmeg, and stuff like that. They can be very close with each other in terms of the spice family. So I can see that happening.
Like I said, I'm a little bit judgmental because this concoction and how it's balanced reminds me most of the holiday ales I've had, but I do taste differences from that.
Mhm.
So, like I said, it could be a false positive on my end.
Really, I have learned that like if you pick up like some sweetness from the vanilla, but like not a whole lot, that some barrels give off a little bit of like just a hint of coconut, and coconut can exude a sort of sweetness to that.
What do you say will give a sense of like restriction, like where you think it's going to be more robust? It actually pulls back a little bit with a little bit different aroma.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
And that's probably what you're getting in this case.
Well, this is coming from Wisconsin. I doubt they impaired like we need coconut because you know the Wisconsin coconuts are just so vibrant at this time of year.
Everybody wants a good old Wisconsin coconut.
Oh yeah.
Are you suggesting that coconuts migrate? Monty Python joke, anybody? Nah, never mind.
I know we talked about before that you would like this as a solo thing, but could you think of an event that you would like to have this beer at?
I mean, if you're really going to do an authentic beer tasting, like, you're going to enter this thing into a competition. Like, this is how good this beer is. Like, you're going to throw this into, like, hey, I want these judges to rate this beer. Or even just for yourself, like, throw it for Central Waters. Like, let's say they got this and a couple of their other barrel-aged beers on tap. Say, like, hey, let's do a flight special and, like, kind of compare the differences from that. But I feel like you definitely need to have a slightly more refined palate to pick that kind of stuff out.
Which right now I don't think I'm in the right grouping for that, but I will say with the dozen or so Central Water beers I've had, this is definitely ranking in the top 3.
Oh, this is fantastic. I agree.
I will definitely say this is one of their better brews I've had, and I've had Central Waters probably over the last, I want to say about 8 years. I've had them about probably once or twice a year because my general location is a little bit far away, but people tend to bring them to me when they have a new beer selection. So I've probably had close to about a dozen different unique Central Water brews, and this is definitely ranking in one of the better ones.
Yeah.
Are they known for their like Scotch ales or strong ales, or is this more of a limited brewing that you've seen?
Not really. I feel like, at least in stores, I feel like I've seen this, only released in the past, 3 months or so. But
just this last season?
Yeah, just around November, December, or something like that. But the fact that they've really, to me, Central Waters hasn't been that fairly impressive in the beer world. Yes, they've had their solid beers, they've had their staples and everything, just like every other brewery, but they haven't really come out with a solid barrel-aged beer or something really complex or something that I can really get behind of. And because of me, I could just be prejudiced because I'm heavy into the ales and stouts and
The dark
much more.
beer
Yeah,
spectrum,
exactly.
more flavorful.
And then even on top of that, like having them barrel aged, I love those.
Yes.
So for them to like step out into the field and just come out with a slew of these barrel aged beers, and especially a Scotch ale. They have multiples, and like me, oh my god, I am a sucker for a good Scotch ale, and the fact that they barrel aged this, and I feel like this is barrel aged properly, like this is just fantastic. This is like, I mean, in my opinion, this is everything I want in it.
Mm-hmm. I will say this is straightforward, and for me that I've been tasting mostly Michigan beers for the last couple of years, I will say this would be par with a straightforward taste of like what you would expect from the brew, but of a dark horse brewery, or I'm not sure if I would rate them higher than Bell's, but this beer in particular I would rate on par with a Michigan Bell's beer.
Well, the thing is with this is that it has like a really, really dark amber color, and the body is a little bit lighter, but what gets me is the heaviness of it. It feels like light on the body, but when you actually drink it, it's like, oh man, this is heavy. Like I gotta step back a second. But like but it's not the flavors that are doing it. It's just
the body. The body is a little bit heavier, where you do not want to chug it. If you chug this beer, I will say it's a disrespect to the
flat out
to the type that it is, but two, there's a level of enjoyment you get from just sipping. It's a sipping beer.
That's exactly what this is,
and that's how I would treat it. It's something that you can think about. You can have complex thoughts. You can think you are much more of a genius than you are, but you are just in one place comprehending life and whatever else is going with you. So I think that's actually a very good place to put this beer. It is just when you want to think and maybe get through some problems. There's some beers that you just want to forget about life. And this one, I would say, is much more about you just look over your life of the week. And this one is much more suited towards that than forgetting.
I'm definitely more so the Zen type of person where I'm just like, you know what? This is good. I'm not going to think about anything.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm going to do. But yeah, on a scale of 1 to 10, you've seen a couple of the videos I've been doing. What do you think? You know how I'm rating beers?
I would say this. I would say it is a solid 8. But if I was going to actually rated for like the little experience that I'm experiencing now, I'll say probably 8.5. I've had some better, but there's nothing in this that is coarse or wrong. That's why I'm giving it a little bit of a higher vote. Because if I just drink this as a strong ale, I would probably rate it as a 7.5, but because there's no negative to it, I want to give it that solid 8.
Okay.
Because a lot of times there's beers that you're like, oh, this is very good tasting, that everything is so great, but this is negative.
Yeah.
I don't taste any negative in this. I don't see an experience where I would be negative. So I'm giving it I would say this would probably be a 7 or 7.5. but because there's no negative, I'm going to give it that solid 8. And there's no adverse confliction in my taste buds on this.
No.
How would you take this?
See, I'm going to go on the complete opposite end of you. I'm just going to throw this out there, and I'm going to say this is the best beer I've had to date, and throw it at a 9.5. And and the reason being is because I can tell that this is a Scotch ale. It's a Scotch ale in every sense of the matter. It has, from what I can pick up, the undertones of a little bit of the toffee and some of the coffee and really caramel. Really, it's the caramel and toffee for first and foremost that really make a Scotch ale, especially a wee heavy. And my opinion is that the wee heavy is like the best yet hardest and most complex basic style of beer you can have because of its characteristics and the fact that you have to give it those flavors without making it too sweet. It's a very delicate balance.
May I ask your opinion? What is a wee heavy beer in your opinion?
A wee heavy is going to be a Scotch ale. A Scotch ale is going to be like fairly malty, depending on where you get it from. If you actually get like a true Scotch ale from Scotland, it's going to have some peatiness and a little bit of smoky, but in the States you're not going to have that. So a lot of beers end up being a Scotch style ale, so they lack the peatiness and the smoky, but they get some of the more like caramelized toffee and obviously caramel flavors like that.
Oh.
The sweeter malty flavors, and it ends up being, way too sweet than it should be dry.
I did not get this out of this beer, but I know certain breweries are doing artificial smoke with their beers.
Right.
Do you think this has any hint of that? I did not take that up at all.
No, this doesn't have that, which means this is not like an actual Scotch ale versus being a Scotch style ale. And you have to, it could be a very subtle difference in the smokiness, but the real thing that's doing it for me, that really lifts it up to 9.5, is that I can get that toffee, that caramel in there, just that subtlety, yet have the maple and vanilla in there without it being dry, and having that coconutty kind of sweetness in there, which severely adds to the complexity and the body to this. Like, you look at this, it's a very dark amber, so you think it would be a light drinking beer, but when you take a sip at it, it's deceptively light in the fact that it is heavy. It is a sipping beer. So this is something that I have said you have to sit down, and you agreed with that This is something you have to sit down and enjoy. So in my opinion, this is a unique kind of like one-of-a-kind beer where they did everything they could to create a Scotch ale, or at least a Scotch style ale, with remaining true to what the characteristics of that beer is, while aging it in a bourbon barrel and pulling out all of those unique flavors like the vanilla, the cinnamon, a little bit of the coconut, some of the maple, like those flavors that you can't really get into a beer without making it like too sweet or too syrupy. And everything, I feel like, just blends together just so long as you treat this beer the way it should be, as a sipping beer.
I would agree that this would definitely be a sipping beer. And for people that are kind of newer to this type of beer, would you say this would be on the par of someone that wants like a fine whiskey experience, a fine wine experience, or basically a fine alcohol experience where they eliminate as much of the outer influence as possible. And if you do see a beneficial flavor or something profile that and I'm butchering the word right now, but that this is not the word I would use typically, but because of the state I'm in, but maximizes the potential taste of this liqueur or beer, I would say I would definitely go for maximizing the drink over basically how should I say this? I would say maximizing the beverage over the experience of a cigar or an outer experience, where typically when you're talking about a harder liqueur or even a very alcoholic beer, a Scotch ale, a Bock beer, you complement it with something else. I would say this is definitely something that you complemented to than something else.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
I would. It's definitely one of those things. If you want to introduce somebody to like the world of craft beers, much less barrel-aged beers, this could be, and I will throw this out there. Not could be. It is a beer that is way too complex, characteristically and flavorfully, to be palatable to like your average beer drinker.
If you want to get
no. If you want to get somebody who's like never have had a barrel-aged beer before, do not let them drink this, because this could set them off with the complexity of the flavors, and
they have no understanding of what it is.
And it feels like it feels like it would be sweet, but it's not sweet. But if they don't understand what's going on here, they will just think it's sweet, and they'll be like, why is my tongue dry? And they don't understand what's going on.
Well, is it considered a dry beer? Is it a beer with smoky flavors? Is it a beer with some other thing that pulls moisture from the tongue by taste?
Well, that's
realistically, it's not pulling actual moisture, but it's giving you sensations you're not used to. When you bought the Central Waters Scotch Ale,
bourbon barrel aged Scotch ale.
Bourbon barrel aged Scotch ale.
This is kind of the whole point of this, is the fact that it's bourbon barrel aged. It's not just any Scotch ale.
Was it under $3 a 12-ounce bottle?
It was $4 a bottle.
$4. I would say this was very much one of the prime bottles that I could have actually say this style was 3, 4. There are some competitors, but it is solid. If you told me it was 6, I would have to see that it was aged for several years. But very few breweries will age their beers for several years.
No, they only do it for a few months at a time, really.
Few months. There's some that will do it for a year. And those are more of the ones that I've seen that also do mead.
Yeah.
But that's also...
But that's a different discussion. We won't get into that. I know nothing about mead.
And honestly, if you're talking about
Let's be honest.
If you're talking about mead or things that are more appealing to the wine market, oh dear Lord, 12 months is nothing to a wine connoisseur when you're trying to appeal to that market with the sweetness and the complexities of sweet flavors. But that's not what we're talking here right now with the Scotch. Here we're talking about, you do get the sweet, you do get the smoky in certain aspects. I would say a little bit less so than what you would think of a Scotch.
But very well balanced.
But it's very well balanced. No.
You can do whatever you want to a beer. You can make the shittiest beer on earth and barrel age it and sell it for $15.
Yes.
Nobody's gonna like it because it's a shitty based beer.
Yes.
What you got to do is you got to brew something good. It's not about it's not about the price point. It's about the quality. Sure, a price point to an extent is going to play a factor into it just because, okay, yeah, we got to cover the cost of making the beer, the complexity of the beer, aging in the barrels, buying the barrels, yada, 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 at the time.
May I say, I agree with you with everything you said. But with me, if I'm going to pay more than $2.53 a bottle for a 12-ounce bottle of beer, I'm looking for a very unique experience. I'm looking for something that they are able to capitalize on a part of the brewing process, a flavor of an ingredient that's not typically used. Mm-hmm. I typically want that when I'm paying more than $2 base price for a beer. I want something that catches my tongue. That it's either that they did something with the base recipe that is so phenomenal, where it's like, oh dear Lord, I'll pay $5 a bottle. I don't care. You took the basic style of this beer and made it so great. Now, this as being a Scotch ale, I will say this is an experience that we typically don't get that many times during the year. It's usually limited release in many breweries. Mm-hmm. And I think this might be a further conversation later on that might not be appropriate for this video. And I know we've gone on a tangent, but we've had many great... I'll say this.
This video's going on the back.
I drove 7 hours from Michigan here, and I will say Wisconsin has a
Our dismay.
Wisconsin has a very unique brewing experience compared to Michigan.